I recently got the chance to check out the multiplayer portion of Star Wars Galactic Racer. Now, you may have seen the single player footage that we put up last week. Now I can show you some of the multiplayer mode which will be in the game when it launches later this year. It's a pretty standard racing multiplayer mode. However, in the case of Star Wars Galactic Racer, it continues some of the ideas from the single player portion of the game, so you're improving your racer, be it a land speeder or a skiff, every time you race. So if you come first in the first race, for example, you will get credits or abilities or upgrades that you can then apply to your vehicle, which will apply to the rest of the races, with the idea being that you are essentially building up your personal racecraft until the finale, until the final race where it really matters. This was pretty thrilling, to be honest. So it essentially means that no matter how long you've been racing in the game, you still have a chance to come back and win. Obviously, if you continue to win races and get upgrades and earn credits, you will be better placed to win the final race because your racecraft will simply be better than the rest of them, but it doesn't make it impossible. It's not like in a Mario Kart situation where the leaderboard gets so stacked that there's realistically or literally no way that you can come back because of the point distribution, as I saw in my session. So the footage you're watching isn't actually from our sessions. We weren't able to record that. This is just b-roll that's been provided by the publisher. But in our session, I was doing okay. You know, I've played the game before. I'd played the game before a lot of the people that were there. I played it at SGF, and I was coming like third and then last and then third and then last. And then on the final race, I managed to actually win it. And that was because I'd placed okay in a few races, so I'd managed to build up my vehicle. So I think that format really works for this game. It also means that there's no sense of total loss if you don't manage to come third or you have a really particularly bad round. Like in this game, if you have a hard crash right at the end on the last corner, the rest of the racers can fly right past you and you can end up coming 12th, but that's not the end of the world, which I think for a game that will probably attract somewhat of a casual audience because of the Star Wars association, I think that's a good thing. So you pick from characters from the single player portion of the game, which you can see here. That doesn't fully affect much apart from the character that will show up when voice lines are triggered or will show up on the starting grid. You can also customize what ship you're going to use, the colors, things like that, and you upgrade that as you go, as I've previously mentioned. There is also a betting system wherein before a race you can predict where you're going to finish, and if you finish in that spot or in that range of spots, you will get a bonus. You can also target another racer, and if you beat them you get a bonus as well. So it's a little meta game to play between the races. I always put myself betting on myself to come first, as anyone with a bit of an ego will do, but it's worth it because if you manage to bet yourself in first place and come first place, the bonus can really hypercharge your ship going into the next races, and it's self-fulfilling. If you do really well at the start, you're setting yourself up to do better as the races proceed and kind of accumulate a large amount of credits and upgrades. These upgrades are things like your abilities, which will start off pretty basic, but if you upgrade them with these credits or find better versions of those abilities, they can chain together to make your racing experience a lot easier, make it easier to take down opponents, make it easier to overtake opponents, all those kinds of things. So overall, I was very happy with it. I think that the multiplayer portion will end up being pretty popular because it feels quite balanced. There is not the obvious rubber banding that there is in the single player portion, and obviously the single player portion is more about kind of training you up to get into this multiplayer zone, but I think there will be people that take it super seriously. There is a nice variety of courses as well. The courses from the single player portion come into the multiplayer portion, and from what I saw, you are gearing up to race the final race in the big stadium that's part of the single player portion. So you will do 3 races. One of them will be on like a grass planet, one will be on a fire planet, and one will be on like an ice planet, and those different races have different environmental hazards that you have to deal with. And then the finale will be in a stadium that incorporates all 3 of them. So you're kind of training your way up. You're getting used to the idea of having to heat up your speeder if it's a cold planet, having to avoid the lava if it's a volcano planet. So the mechanics of the individual tracks actually do factor into the final race, which I think is a good touch. To finish off, here's a little bit more gameplay from the multiplayer portion of Star Wars Galactic Racer. If you'd like to see more and hear more about the game, you can do so on the YouTube channel. We have single player gameplay footage that was published last week, and also some pod racing footage from the Pod Racer arcade mode. You can do multiplayer pod racing, and yes, it is just as hard as single player pod racing, which you can see right here by the people flying into the walls. Again, this isn't my footage. I was much more efficient at flying into the walls. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to VGC on YouTube. And if you really enjoyed it, consider patreon.com/videogameschronicle. It's the best way to support VGC, and you'll get ad-free browsing, more videos, more podcasts, and extra content. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Don't even bother trying to win. Would you look at this?